Hi, Pacific Northwest family. This is Jill Riley, your Assistant Communications Director for the PAC Northwest. I am really excited to be here today with Pastor Tyra Grauer from Corvallis. So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be with you today.
Tyra is the pastor of a house church called the Well Covenant Church. We are here to talk about a new ministry that is forming virtually out of the air for these guys. And I'm going to invite Tyra to just kind of talk about, first of all, what this project is, and how you kind of crossed paths with getting involved here. So invite us into this journey.
Okay. First, it's Wellspring Covenant Church. It was the well. So Wellspring came out of the well when we decided to formally become a house church. So,
Okay.
um, I'm a dual pastorate or part-time pastor, part-time work outside, and my work outside is with Corvallis for Refugees, which normally doesn't kind of feed into stories, but for this story, it actually is a pretty key part of what we're doing. But my family has always been involved with refugee care ministry, and from my earliest time when I was a kid growing up, I remember going to the airport and picking up families. And so when the Ukraine crisis happened, my family kicked into high gear, and my parents in Canada, who are in their late 70s, started inviting Ukrainian families into their homes and getting them set up. And I told my mom once that she was my hero because she really is the catalyst for this. And she's a very shy, unassuming woman. And yet she does these amazing things. And so they go to the airport after meeting people on Facebook with a sign with somebody's name on it and pick up people they've never met before and get them started in a life in Canada. And one time I told her she was my hero and she laughed at me. She's like, well, we've only helped 8 families. And I think, for a couple in their late 70s to be welcoming that. And that was last year. I don't know how many they've helped now, but
That's
they
amazing.
eventually had to slow down a little bit, which is not surprising. And they have a family now that's living in the suite in their home, and they have 3 kids. And they come from Alexandria in Ukraine. And they are a wonderful Christian family and came from a church there, a church family. And last year, or actually maybe this year, beginning of the year, they started talking about their friends that wanted to come to the United States and to live in the United States. And they were praying about leaving the Ukraine and what that would look like. And people don't leave the Ukraine right now, especially not men. And this family has 3 boys. So the father, Vitaly, and then they have 3 sons. So the oldest is 19, then next is 17 and 8. And so the older ones are to the point of military service or very close to military service, and they can't leave the country.
Good.
So our church started praying for them. So we have prayer meetings on Tuesdays, and we started praying for this family. And early in the year, Vitaly, the father of the family, was praying on a Sunday morning, and he just felt God tell him to leave and to not worry about the roadblocks. And so on Monday morning, that's what they did. And so they got to roadblocks and they were waved through. And they got to another roadblock and they were waved through, which just is not something that happens in the Ukraine right now. And then God sent a storm. And a lot of times storms are kind of harbingers of bad things. Like in our faith journey,
Right.
oh, God sent a storm, and we're like, oh no, it was something bad. But in this case, it was an incredible miracle. And what happened was they got to the border of Moldova, and Nina, the wife, and the younger ones went on because they could cross legally. And the older ones went with Vitaly, and they were walking to cross the border in the midst of a storm. And it was these whiteout conditions that were really bad. And they kind of were trying to figure out where to go. And it looked like there was some trees over there that would be a better place in a storm. And so they headed that direction. And they got to the border of Moldova, which is a huge ditch, and it had filled with snow. And because of that, they got to walk across on a snow bridge and walked across. And as soon as they got to the other side, it started to rain and it wiped away their tracks. In the meantime, Nina was over at the border, and she met Christian border guards that helped her walk through, which is pretty amazing. And then they had car trouble, and a pastor stopped to help them and wanted them to stay with him. And she said, no, we have to find our men. So they left and found them, and they got to the border of Poland and Moldova. Normally they get stopped there for quite a few days, going through the process, and they were there for a couple of hours. And after that, they were legally in the country. So that just God's hand is on this family. It's just amazing, the miracle of that.
So then how long did they stay there?
Okay, so they got to Germany and they got jobs. And I didn't realize, but in Germany, you work for 6 months on a contract. So you have these contracts that play out. And so when I first got to talk to them, the boys had a contract. They were working at a pizza place, and Vitaly had a contract for I think it was like a condenser factory. He's a diesel mechanic, so he was doing that. And Nina is a cook, and Olga is their mother, who will be coming with them, and she's a little bit. And so they were busy at work on their contracts. So when I first talked to them and actually got an in-face to meeting with them, was after we had met, or I had met with Sam and Alex, who are from Salem, Oregon. And they were the ones that were encouraging them to come to the United States, which was so fun. That
They are from their former church.
And they're all from the former church. So all three families that are
Right.
connected are from a former church in the Ukraine that worship together. And so that's kind of how our church got connected with them. But we started praying, and that was really how God kind of unfolded this story for us. And the funny thing was, and then when we found out where they wanted to come in the United States, it was one of those like, what? Because Maria and my mother were having a conversation, and she said, yeah, they want to come to Salem. And then my mom relayed that to me, and I'm like, Salem, Oregon? They want to come to Oregon? Because for my job with Corvallis for Refugees, like, I know people don't want to come to Corvallis or Salem. They don't want to come to Oregon. They want to go to California or Washington or Seattle area or Virginia. Like, there's certain places that people generally want to settle, and it's not in the middle of Oregon.
So tell me the timeline between meeting them, having this conversation, understanding they want to come to your area, and them actually arriving, because that's pretty imminent, right?
Yes. So they arrive on Saturday. So
Wow.
the first time, well, when we found out that they wanted to come to Oregon was May things. And a lot of times we pray and like, where do you want us to go and stuff like that? And where are you leading us? And I said, God's hand is on this family. Like, there is no doubt in my mind. And a lot of times we say, like, see where God is working and then join him there. And like, yeah, this is pretty obvious for us that this is where we need to be joining God in. And so I had a conversation with them mid-July. And at that time, Vitaly said, well, we can't come yet. Our contracts aren't done. And we put the paperwork in at end of August. It's a little nerve-wracking because that's part I've never done before. We had to have one family from our church sponsor. So our church is the sponsor, but we had one family that stepped up and said, no, we want to take responsibility. And they've been amazing to fill out the forms and help with some of the technology pieces, and are really excited about having the family come. And what I love about it is their family, they have 3 kids, and now they get to have the experience I had when I was a kid of going to the airport and greeting a family and meeting a family. And it was foundational for me and life-changing for me. It's one of those core memories that I will always have and cherish. It's been amazing to see my congregation step out in faith and do stuff. We had one of the people from our congregation offer their home for their temporary lodging until they get ready. And we're a tiny church. We have 19, and 5 of them are kids. So it's not a huge congregation to step out in faith like this, but just really feel like God has positioned us in an amazing way to be able to do this. And I love the excitement that I see in my congregation. I love the community involvement we're getting, and just people from the community stepping forward and saying, oh, I want to help and I want to do something. And it's been very easy for us then to share our faith because of we're doing.
Absolutely. For those of you who want to pray, there's lots of prayer requests that you can get a hold of Tyra. For those of you who want to give, we will give that information in the show notes under this video, and we will certainly circle back and kind of hear what somebody used to say, the rest of the story.
I would love to have that. I would love to have the congregation be able to share just how we've grown, and
Right.
from this family too, maybe hear from the family. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Tyra, thank you so much for stepping out in faith, for finding out where God's working, and for joining him there. And we will look forward to hearing more later.
awesome. Thank you so much.